Are you scared?
Devil without a cause, and I'm back with the beaver hats and Ben Davis slacks. 30-pack of strolls, 30-pack of hoes. No Rogaine in the propane flow.
Open up with a little Kid Rock today. Trying to switch it up a little bit from Hollywood Undead and get some Kid Rock going. Even though Hollywood Undead mentions Kid Rock in a song, it's just really odd. Getting a little late start today. I had to come home and I was tired again, so I slept a little longer. It's almost 2 o'clock right now on February 3rd, 2022, and I want to open up the podcast by wishing my oldest son happy 27th birthday. Happy birthday, Tyler. I would sing to you, but you know how bad I am at singing. So he's 27, and he and his wife recently gave us an early birthday present where Angela and I are going to be grandparents. So we are expecting a grandchild. I believe it's in September. And we are in a heated discussion about what Grandma and Grandpa should be called. Angela's pretty set on, I believe it's Grammy G, and the G is short for OG, so Grammy Original Gangster. I don't know, but I guess it's better than her alternate personality, Vanilla Ice. It's an inside story. It's funny. So it's 1:55, and I want to get this out of the way. I wanted to do the market updates. So right now, Bitcoin is at 36,780. XRP is 60 cents. XLM is 19 cents. Doge is 13.6 cents. The Dow's at 35,332. The Nasdaq's at 14,034. S&P's at 45,11. And we have gold at 1804.90. And silver's 28.32. So there you have today's pricing. So I'm going to hack this software. I don't know how to do this any other way. So I'm going to end the recording because I want to play some audio of that I recorded yesterday on my drive to work, and I want to come back and apply it to some stuff in the news I heard today. So this is picking up where I am talking about the movie The Matrix, where he's visiting the Oracle, and she says something like, with the knocking the thing off, what's going to bake your noodle is, would you have done it if she wouldn't have said anything? So it's kind of along that vein. It's a little deeper thought process that I was going through driving. I just wanted to get it documented. So I'm going to stop the recording so I can insert. There's got to be an easier way to do this. Stop the recording so I can insert the audio, and then I'll come back and pick it up. Such a hack. I really need a producer. Whatever the Oracle said about it'll bake your noodle, something about the cookies or whatever. And it got me thinking, if I weren't doing what I'm doing, if I weren't cutting fabric or driving to work or being in the motorcycle wreck or anything, would I still be having these revelations or built these theories, or with different experiences in the past,
your future could easily be vastly different. Just a small change in any trajectory over time produces huge results, if you think about it. So had I made one decision differently in the past, how vastly different could your future be right now? So that's why regrets are illogical and useless, because everything that you are right now, as bad as you may think you have it or as good as you have it, everything you are right now is based on every decision you've made and every decision really everybody else has made at the quantum level when you think about it. But decisions made for you, decisions made about you, decisions you made, everything has shaped that. So Ethan running into the pavilion, or me getting burned on Christmas Day, breaking my ribs, everything, there's a causality to everything, even at the smallest level, because every decision you make guides every other decision and everybody else's decision that you come in contact with. So you really can't crazy people whipping out, free will to drive like an idiot. And a self-driving car, that wouldn't have happened. Their car would have communicated with my car, and they wouldn't have been hopefully wouldn't have been able to pull out in front of me. But until then, we have stupid drivers.
It's just a lot of bad luck with the sweeping. Ray, I'm sorry, we got to run. When we come back, more of your calls. And
So Mark continued on with the superstitions, and some were like, if you sweep over your feet or under your feet, you're not going to get married, or a broom falls, you're going to get company, or you lay your pocketbook on the ground, and your money's going to fall. I don't know if that's saying you're going to lose money or bad luck. Versus things that aren't really maybe superstitions in the past, but we've discovered the science, or had the science revealed. Like if the cows are laying down, the fish aren't biting, and then you went in to say, well, it's justified, something with the barometric pressure. I don't know if that's real or not, but if animals can sense storms coming, and then you say, or before we knew that, then they would say, oh, if the birds are flying this way, it means this. Well, yeah, they just in tune with what's going on. I know it's a superstition until we figured out the science behind it. Versus nonsense things that are just coincidences that we call superstitions when you don't. But when you don't do the opposite, or when you do the opposite, nothing bad happens either, or nothing good happens, whatever the superstition is. So I met Angela in 1991, and ever since then, since I celebrated New Year's with her, it always has. She's a good Southern girl, and she followed her mama's and her grandmother's, and every New Year's Day you have to have black-eyed peas, and you have to have greens, and you have to have pork, and everything means everything. Everything means something. And every year we would do the same thing over and over again, and nothing ever changed. Eat your greens to get rich, to get money. We ate our greens, and we're still living day to day, paycheck to paycheck. So this year it was funny. It was ironic because we looked two things. I looked up. I hate black-eyed peas. I looked up the superstition the lore behind it. And it turns out there's many interpretations, and one of them was you can not just black-eyed peas, you can eat beans. Well, give me a pot of baked beans on New Year's Day and I'll eat it up. But black-eyed peas, I struggle to eat 3 of them because they're disgusting. But every year they would put hot sauce, vinegar and pepper sauce, I forget what they call it, on their greens. That was a tradition. Every year they did that. But it occurred to me, nowhere in the superstition does it say put that on. So this year we didn't have any pepper sauce. So we choked down the greens, at least I did, without any pepper sauce, which arguably it does make it better, but still, bleh. And so New Year's Day, it occurred to me, what if all this time you've been negating your voodoo by putting pepper sauce on it, and this year you didn't put pepper sauce on it, and shit's gonna happen. And I use that along the lines of thinking because I started this podcast, and I'm expecting, I shouldn't say expecting, I can envision good things happening. Worst case scenario, I just get my thoughts out there, ask some questions, maybe I get some help answering them. Best case scenario, I get to interview the people I want to interview. I can interview Hollywood Undead, and I can interview Elon Musk, and I wanted Lex and Manolis and Jeff Goldblum, down the line of all the people that I want to talk to and ask questions of. That would be pretty cool. But I really want to document my memories, and I really want to just, do what I find enjoyable. So circling back to the Matrix, it burned my noodle, baked my noodle to think, if I weren't doing what I'm doing now, would I have found joy in doing what I'm doing now? Pursuing this avenue, come up with these philosophies. Trying to make life better. Would any of that have happened if I didn't go through every life experience exactly the way that I did? And you have to think of, I would encourage you, if you're listening, whoever's listening, to do the same thought exercise. Think about all the decisions you made, all the regrets you may have, but think about how good you have it relative to how bad you could have had it. In any, from, I'm adopted, so from not being aborted to every decision I've made to this point in time where I'm doing what I really enjoy doing. At least I think so. I've done a lot of things, and this is the most enjoyable. It may not be the most lucrative, but I enjoy what I'm doing, just trying to get by and making this life, my human existence, a little bit better. So just an observation, listening to Mark Arum, he had a colonel on, and they were talking about the situation in Ukraine and Russian troops, and it made me think, what happened? Why all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but why under Biden, and I'm not trying to get political, I'm just asking a question, why under Biden is Russia an issue where we're sending troops, whereas when Trump was president, we were chummy with Russia, and this conspiracy theories aside, the soccer ball theory, whatever, but just geopolitically, there were no, at least I don't think there were any ongoing wars or he was pulling troops out. He negotiated Middle East peace deals. Everybody was like almost a kumbaya moment, and then he's voted out by Joe Biden, the most popular president, even more popular than I almost said Osama, Barack Obama. And the uninflation. The inflation is high and the unemployment rate is low, but we just had a staff meeting at work yesterday. We can't get people to come to work. There's no more extra benefits going on. There's no, people just don't want to work. So a couple weeks ago, when Elijah dropped a 45-pound plate on his toe at the gym, I had to take him to the hospital. We were in the hospital for 6 hours in the emergency room. And he was on the fast track, according to them, because it was just a broken bone. He had already gotten x-rays, and he was just, I guess, waiting to read it. They really wound up doing nothing, giving him the wrong foot brace. I think he hurt his left foot, and they gave him the right foot. We were there 6 hours. Still got charged the same amount through the insurance. I think it's like $4,000. Terrible, like waiting in the waiting room with everybody else. It was horrible. The conditions were. So I went up and asked one of the nurses. I said, "What's going on? Why are you guys so understaffed? Or is it Omicron? Is it all these patients are coming in sick?" And she said, "No, Omicron's at the bottom of the list." And this is anecdotal. I know it's not scientific. I know I'm not trying to claim anything or extrapolate anything. This is just my experience. So she said the biggest thing is that the pandemic and the way that hospitals have been treating nurses and doctors has been going on for the past 2 years. And I know how they do that because Angela, when COVID started, Angela was a nurse, and they were going to send her back. I mean, she still is a nurse. She was a nurse in the bariatric surgeon's office, the same one that did my surgery. Dr. JP, I'd love to talk to you. And so she was a nurse there, and they were going to send her into the hospital, send her to triage patients, send her to evaluate, and she didn't even work in the hospital. And the hospital systems, they treated the nurses and doctors like crap. So 2 years goes on, and now they reap what they sow. So the nurse that I was talking about was saying that she had gotten fed up, and she had left nursing full time, and now she's back at PRN. I only knew what PRN was from Angela. It means, like, through an agency, a temporary day nurse. You can have multiple, like a temporary agency, a floating nurse. And then another nurse, younger one, chimed up and said that why would anybody want to go into nursing in a hospital when you can make the same amount of money working at Target or Walmart? I thought that was pretty interesting because Ethan works at Walmart. He's making $14 an hour. Yeah, granted, he's only getting 21 hours a week, but that's good money for a 17-year-old. But not if you're trying to raise a family. Yet I get a bill for sitting in a waiting room, getting x-rays, I understand that, sitting back in the waiting room, having a bunch of people sick, triaged, coughing with whatever they had, waiting for a doctor to read an x-ray to send him home with the wrong foot boot. Whereas when it happened, Angela said, just bring him home. But the paramedic said, oh, no, that looks bad. You should take him to the hospital and get evaluated. gave me recommendations on which hospital to go to. And he broke a toe, which is what Angela thought, and he's in a boot, and they don't do anything else for it. But $4,000 later, 6 hours of my life that I lost. I did get some information out, and then they said the doctors and nurses. So another problem was the doctors and nurses that have stuck around are at various levels of belief in the shot, and either working in the hospital, they all got the shot, but they all seem to be going out with COVID. Any of the boosters, Moderna's just got approved. They're calling it the spike vax. Now, come on, what kind of marketing? What is that all about? I understand the spike protein, but you're almost taunting the conspiracy theorists. Come on, it's just ridiculous. They are now no longer operating under the emergency use authorization. I always have trouble with that. Now it's approved by the FDA, the same body that has cannabis as a Schedule 1 drug and DMT as a Schedule 2 drug. That's odd. But so the insurance got this bill. Doctors and nurses are getting COVID. Oh, and then by the way, yeah, some of it is actually Omicron, and some of them are coming in. But there's other things contributing to the factors. But my question to my managers yesterday and everybody that I talked to: how is the unemployment rate so freaking low, but there's so many jobs open? Did COVID kill off that many people in the pool, or did they quit working, or are they doing a side hustle and they don't count in the numbers anymore? They're counting as unemployment, but they're doing their own thing. I mean, to me that's the most plausible explanation. But still, it doesn't bode well for the future of the industries. What are we going to do if we can't get people to? They're closing restaurants because they can't get people to work in the restaurants. Well, where's the technology that's, McDonald's is already doing it, right? You can go up and place your own order at a kiosk and pay. But that's McDonald's. What about mom and pop restaurants? Forget about the ones that closed down because of COVID. But what about the ones that have to close 3 days a week or only open on the weekends, that have great food, but they can't find people to work, and they can't pay more because they can't charge more because they're already maxed out. Their margins are crazy high, so they have to start cutting expenses. Where's the technology that's going to help them, Elon? Where's how can we use technology to make our lives better today? Let's think about it. I just had an interesting thought. Most of what I know about theoretical physics, Schrodinger's cat, Fermi principle, Fermi paradox, I learned, or I was first exposed to it on the Big Bang Theory. It's sad to say. I'm trying to think. So that's all I know. And yesterday I said, or in episode 1 I said that sometimes I feel like not a Dr. Howard listening to them talk about physics, with me listening to, I feel like Howard listening when I listen to Lex, and sometimes I feel like Penny, where it's completely over my head. It sounds uninteresting to me. but I get through it because they're brilliant people in their own right, in their own fields, and it makes me. I just had a realization. So Sheldon has supposedly has Asperger's in the show. So he's, he doesn't understand social conventions. Not arrogant, but condescending maybe. And it occurred to me, that's the way most research scientists or high-level doctors are. I'm not trying to say you're arrogant. What I'm saying is you're so hyper-specialized, so smart about what you're doing, you don't understand necessarily the day-to-day implications and how to convey those messages back and forth to the common folk. So you're arrogant in the sense that you're basing all of your knowledge on principles and on concepts that you're making a lot of assumptions about. But when questioned, your default condition goes back to, well, it's science and all these things happened before us, and that's great in advancing and moving forward, and that's a wonderful thing. But to the exclusion of most of the people in the world who will never see the fruits of your labor, maybe indirectly, but medical research and coming up with new drugs, while you could argue we should go back to natural stuff, but drugs and their side effects and more drugs to counteract those side effects. If we're curing cancer, that's great, but Elon wants, and I don't mean to make this a bash Elon podcast, because I'm certainly not bashing him. I have great respect for him. I just want to ask these difficult questions that pop up in my brain. So, he's doing all this stuff to get to Mars and build all the rockets, and it's a for-profit company, right? But, maybe ethical is too harsh of a word, but moral questions, I won't get an implant in my brain because of what possibly could happen. It's a risk-reward ratio. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, the arrogance of science. So, and you may all just be oblivious to the fact that your lack of release of information to benefit the public, say the information from Dr. Kellis on COVID, right? If he's not worried about humanity ending, why don't we have scientists out there that don't have a dog in the fight to speak out about the truth, about flat Earth, or about, the silence is almost arrogant when you think about it, and you may not even realize that you're being arrogant. You're just trying to stay uncontroversial or apolitical or whatever you're trying to do. But the fact of the matter is we need more people to speak up, more experts in the field, because we give the power to the politicians to make policy. And if you have information that can change the view, Joe Rogan just got lambasted for 2 interviews he did with doctors because he's presenting opposing professional opinions about COVID. But if there are more people like that, who are more people likely to listen to? Trusted, faceless scientists, right? That you can put your credentials behind it. You can say COVID. You don't have a dog in the fight. But coming out and setting the record straight across the board, or keeping the secret. Do you need, for some reason, this controversy brewing about COVID or the strains or how it replicates or the testing for it? Do you need all this political discussion, or what purpose does it serve? Because we need to get people into office that will make changes to laws that will benefit us today, rather than stuff going on down the road. And we as citizens of the country and as citizens of humanity across the world, we need to just get more humanitarianly focused and stop all this nonsense. If we're on the path to technology and the future is so bright, well, let's cast some of that light on the present and have truthful conversations with differing opposing opinions, and let the hive mind decide with all the data, not with keeping it in compartmentalized, as Dr. Kellis put it. And that's why I really want to interview Dr. Kellis. He's at the top of my list of people that I want to interview.
Okay, I'm back. I wanted to follow that up with something that was in the news. So this morning I heard on the radio that something about the transgender bill, and they're trying to do something with it in Georgia. I'm not really sure, but immediately I thought of how science needs to step up to the plate and set the record straight. I want to challenge any scientist. Put your reputation on the line and come out and defend non-binary gender. We can, I'm not trying to debate about the beliefs after that, but if you have issues, you want to be transgender, that's fine. It's your personal choice as long as you're not infringing on anybody else. But to go and say that there is more than one biologically assigned gender at birth, I want a scientist to come out and let's just stop this nonsense, because transgender men playing sports against women and knocking the shit out of them is wrong. That this shouldn't be up for debate. This shouldn't even be an issue. We shouldn't even be talking about this. The biological differences between men and women should just, on the surface, common sense, I believe that prima facie, it should just, we need to just say no. This is ridiculous. What's it going to take? A NCAA, female athlete dying? Maybe it already happened. I don't know. But this is just ridiculous. Afterwards, you can, outside of that, you can do what you want. Live your own free choice, whatever. But if you're born a man and identify as a woman, and you get off on going and beating the shit out of other women, you got problems. Then it's not a transgender issue. It's you got deeper seated problems, and you need to be looked at if you're okay with that. That's just messed up. So, scientists, geneticists, Dr. Kellis, please, somebody, just, if there's any nonsense that you could come and just put an end to, make it that controversy. And not even a controversy, just set the record straight. So I wanted to go get this documented. We were talking last night at work, and my microphone keeps falling down. I'm sorry. Such a hack production. We were talking. Somebody cut their finger at work, and they came up and asked me for a Band-Aid. And there's a first aid kit, but it's across the building. But I carry Band-Aids and first aid cream and alcohol swabs and a lot of other stuff in my bag. And it got me just thinking about being prepared. And I guess for me, it goes back, we got to get in the way back machine to 1988 when I got my Eagle Scout award in Boy Scouts, back when Boy Scouts actually meant Boy Scouts. I'm not trying to get political, but it's a hell of a lot different today than it was back then. Back when I was in it, and I learned a lot of practical skills from all my scout leaders that they made a true difference in my life, and one of them was just being prepared. So back in 2012, when Obama was running for his second term, I hate to say this, but I scared myself into going off a deep end, if you can believe that. When I immerse myself in something, I tend to go really deep. So I got deep into prepping and preparedness, and there's a prepper, John Wesley Rawls, I believe his name is. He's got one of his taglines is something: bullets, beans, bullets, and Band-Aids, things you need to stock up on. I think there's a fourth B, but I can't remember what it was. But he was, having a compound, and he undisclosed locations, and he's really, really into it. I mean, there's a lot of interesting information that he gives out for free, but he was deep into it. So I got into it, and we started saving camp, more like the LDS church, like Latter-day Saints. They're one of their things is stocking up or prepping or something to that extent. So it was more like canned goods in rotation, and buying, getting bullets and rounds and shot. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, Obama's going to have a second term. It is irrational, and it was before I realized that Republicans are Democrats, and they're the same creature, and they're all against the citizens of the United States. That's a topic for another day. I can't wait to get into that. But we have the wrong enemy in mind. But so going back to the prepping, it was all something we started having a running joke in the family about getting a compound and specializing. I mean, it was really Angela was going to be the medical, and we like trying to think of people who we needed to come in, like we need a doctor, and we need who do we know that can weld, and it was when you think about it, it was just it's comical, just like my last year with the conspiracy theories. It's comical, but John Wesley Rawls, it's a lifestyle, it's a mentality to go to that extent, no matter where you are. But the underlying premises, I guess, preparedness. It's preparing versus being fearful. So there's there's different levels of the preparedness. You go, like long-term commitment, like John Wesley Rawls, or intermediate term would be something out of fear. That's what I would consider intermediate term. It was 10 years ago, and today I still have some extra canned foods, and it's good to be prepared. And I do have more things than the average person. A semi, loosely speaking, go bag. But I'm not any different. We're not any different in the country on the big scale, affecting my life than we were 10 years ago. But then there's the short term, like panic buying, like, when a storm's coming and everybody goes and buys the bread. So loosely speaking, they're prepared for the storm, but then it quickly wanes. So we're talking about compounds, and if we had the resources last night at work, if we had the resources today, it's more like it's in vogue to have land and do stuff, and not necessarily maybe go fully off the grid, but it's fashionable to be isolated country. I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just the crowds that I run with. Maybe it's not anywhere else, but if I had the resources, I'd love to have a compound. I'd love to have some acreage and be able to shoot guns and do cool stuff, ride four-wheelers. I mean, who wouldn't do that? Or I don't know, maybe you wouldn't, but this is my podcast. Stop it. You're in my head. So when it comes down to it, 10 years ago, it's no different than we were now. So 10 years from now, and I don't mean to belabor this point, but 10 years from now, 2032, Elon wants to be on Mars. And it's just, yesterday I went over the probabilities, but I was watching a video, or the chances of, lightning and hitting the Powerball. And I was watching a video, Tom Nicholas ripping apart Veritasium's video, why you should want driverless cars on the road now. And it's really interesting video. It's about Waymo, the car company that used to be Google, and they spun it off. Now they have driverless cabs in a suburb of Phoenix or something like that. Like literally driverless. There's a seat, but there's nobody in the seat. So it adds to the freakiness. I mean, I could maybe see somebody there just in case. But anyway, so he rips it apart. It's an interesting video. I don't know if it's kind of anticlimactic if you watch Tom Nicholas before you watch the video, but I'd encourage to watch it. If I figure out how to put the links in the thing, I'll start putting these down there. But in that video, he referenced an article from the 2015 in The Economist, and it said the chances of a plane crashing because of technology, the chances of a plane crashing is 1 in 5.4 million. What? If they're guessing Apophis is going to hit the Earth, a chance of that is 1 in 530,000. So maybe I'm doing the math wrong. I hope somebody can correct me if I am. But it seems that to me, that's 10 times more likely Apophis is going to hit the Earth than a plane will crash. And that's not a plane crashing in, at least I don't think so, a plane crashing in 10 years. I think that's a plane crashing I mean, not even 10 years now. It's 2029, so 7 years. Or a plane crashing in, I don't know what the time horizon of the article was. I would imagine in a year, because of technology. We have so few plane crashes and so many plane flights. But wow, 10 times more likely we're going to get hit by a 400-meter asteroid than a plane crashing? Why is nobody talking about this? I have no idea. But it brings me back to the prepping mentality. And the funny comment they were saying was Mars is Elon's compound. Elon needs to get out of here because he's got a compound on Mars. So two conspiracy theories that are out there are pretty funny in relating to this. So, I find interesting, maybe not funny. But one of them is a conspiracy theory that Elon is actually an alien and maybe he wants to go to Mars because he wants to go home. And I don't know, maybe, I mean, he was asked and he said he's not. So, but can aliens lie? I don't know. We'll have to find out. The other theory is that there is or are a military base or multiple military bases where you can go, and once you get through security, it's like Men in Black. Like there's all sorts of alien creatures and working together, and they're already on the Earth, and just think Men in Black. And you can go into, I don't know if it's a room or whatever it is, but basically we already have a colony on Mars and intergalactic travel, and you can teleport to Mars. Goes hand in hand with the fake moon landing. I mean, all those theories we'll love to get into sometime. But you can go to Mars, and we already colonized Mars, so it's almost a moot point. So the Apophis hitting is 10 times more likely than a plane crashing. If that just doesn't freak you out, and I don't mean to be an alarmist, I'm just trying to get somebody to either shut me down or speak up. I'm not really sure. As a human species, I'm not really sure what to make of this. I don't know how to process any of this. And while I'm thinking about it, if you enjoy this little wander journey through my head, and you think anybody else would enjoy it as well, please share this podcast. I don't know, this shameless self-promotion I'm not really good at. I don't know, somehow you can like and share this recording, or Anchor, or I don't know, my website. I got links all there, ponderinginfinity.com. I don't know, I got to really figure this out, because I got to get stuff up on YouTube, and I don't have time to edit, and I need to get video, and I got so many, trying to think of guests to come on. I'm definitely going to need video for that, so I got to get my shit together, and it's really difficult. But I want to talk about something else I heard in the news today. Was on the radio, I heard the Army is going to begin discharging people that haven't gotten the COVID vaccine. Apparently, the Marines and Navy and Air Force have already been discharging people for not getting the vax. But how is, like, have we lost our minds? Why would we effectively force people to get the vax? Like, where is science on this? Can't be that bad if most people are getting back to normal life. I mean, yeah, people are dying, and yes, I understand all that, but we can't have it both ways. We need to get everybody on the same page and move forward, and that's why we need science to step in and do that. I mean, it's crazy that Moderna just got the approval for the FDA approval for their vaccine, so they no longer have to use the emergency use authorization. I can never say that. But their name of their vaccine, they named it the Spikevax. They're just taunting the conspiracy theorists. I mean, what kind of, either it's brilliant marketing or it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're just trying to evoke controversy. The Spikevax? Come on. What is wrong with you people? What's wrong with me? Does somebody have any suggestions? Does this make sense to you and doesn't? I mean, and I'm the outsider. I'm the one that's. I'm not saying it's not possible. I just think the probabilities are pretty low. This was an interesting thought experiment I posed to myself. So if you consider what I'm what my idea of a utopia is, where we get to where technology is there, so we don't have to work. We can do what brings us joy. So if you're a teacher, you can teach. There's still people. It's basically, if you have passion in teaching, then teach, and there'll be people that want to learn. If you have, there's always going to be somebody. If you have a passion for creating and writing music, you don't have to work to live. And there's more to it. It needs to be fleshed out. I understand that, but consider that as a utopia where everybody is. Think of your life now without having to go to work, and what would you spend more time doing that. So if that utopia came to fruition and everybody got to pursue their passions without having to work to exist, even if we went back to bartering, whatever, it's almost a self-defeating, I don't know if it's self-defeating prophecy, because if you have kids in that environment, you found your passion by trial and error. You weren't born with a passion. You just, nature versus nurture, or your experience and everything to where you are today is based on a decision that was made in your past, and that's why regret is illogical. Because if you regret something in your past, if you made a different decision at the time, maybe big or small, it's like the ultimate butterfly effect. A little change in one decision, on a long enough time horizon, could produce vastly different results. So whether I'm adopted, so whether it's my parents' decision not to abort, and that would have been, I guess, the ultimate in bad because I wouldn't be here, or any decision I've made, whether I riding a motorcycle and getting in the motorcycle accidents, or every decision I've made, you can't. It's a dangerous game to start thinking about regret, because you could be a lot worse than you are. Even Ethan driving his truck into the park and causing all that damage, or my smoker blowing up on Christmas Day and 2nd-degree burns on my hands. I mean, yeah, it's bad, but in hindsight, if I really consider everything else, I could be a lot worse off. And so at any time a decision I made got me to this point where I am today, and I'm it's a pretty good place. So I would encourage you to do the same reflection and introspection, and make that determination for you if you would be better or worse. But so back to the passion, though. So your passions and have been developed and quote unquote evolved over your lifetime, and maybe you knew what you were passionate about when you were young. And I mean, when I was in middle school, I thought I wanted to be my passion was oceanography, and I just wanted to be Jacques Cousteau, and I just wanted to go out and explore the seas. And then later on, my passion became well, I really don't know. It's right. So I guess right now my passion is doing this, and I getting my thoughts out and expressing my philosophies, and challenging when I get the opportunity, challenging people. So my passion right now is doing this. So if you have kids and they don't have an opportunity to discover their passion, how do they know what they want to do? What do they do in a utopia? It's just an interesting thought experiment. I thought it was. I'm not sure. It looks like it's... Oh, wow. I guess I don't have to stop, but I probably should. I need to work on the timing. I got so much more I wrote down I wanted to talk about, but maybe another day. This was episode 2 of the Pondering Infinity podcast. I probably need to start doing that in the beginning, too. This is tough with working a full-time job overnight and trying to... Sometimes the episode writes itself. I mean, we were laughing so hard with the Elon Musk. His bunker is on Mars. It was pretty funny. But we just have these great conversations, and that's one thing I do miss from my previous job where I was before. I really had a great opportunity to come in and discuss philosophies and technologies, and with the great guys that I worked with, Brian, Kevin, Bavia. Yeah, you guys were great. Got to talk really deeply, and then so I guess this might be a good time to segue into how I got here. I started when COVID first started. My daughter is a tattoo artist, a great tattoo artist. Babyface Tattoos on Instagram. Look her up. If you if you do go to her page, scroll down until you see a Betty Boop tattoo. And consider this, that she did that tattoo on herself upside down. So it's on her thigh, and she gave it to herself upside down. And it's a tattoo from a couple years ago, and she's getting she's better and better. Really, really good. She's up in Nashville. So I guess today was brag on my kids' day. So she was a tattoo artist, or she is a tattoo artist, but she was working in a shop, and the shop closed when COVID shut down. So she came and said, her shop is shut down for COVID. She wants to learn how to sew, and she wants to she's got a goal of making 100 masks for my wife and her coworkers at the doctor's office at the time. So I said that's really great. And at the time, I was working at a small company, and one of the benefits that we had was every 5 years you got a 1-month paid sabbatical. So I was there. Well, when I left, I was there 12 years, and my first sabbatical, they were kind enough to let me use it when I was in my motorcycle accident, and I was bedridden for a month, and they let me use that to heal up. I am eternally grateful for that. The second one I was eligible for later in I think it was, when did 2019, 2020? I don't know. I got COVID time. I don't remember when it first started. It was March, I guess, 2020. And so I was in a high risk health group. I was diabetic and hypertension, just a bunch of stuff. And and take note, I did say I have had bariatric surgery, and I'm hoping to do an episode on that as well. But I was in a high-risk health group, so I asked I guess I could say Chandler. He's the CEO. I asked him if I could take my sabbatical, and he graciously said yes, so I could work from home while the world was learning about COVID. So Morgan came to me, and she told us about sewing, and I said, well, great, I'm off for a month. I'll help you out. And like I said earlier, I tend to go deep into stuff when I get into it. So I sometimes use the analogy of Tim the Toolman Taylor, and I just go way off. So we started, I didn't know how to sew, so I learned how to sew, and then I had my mom and dad offered to send down their old sewing machine, so they sent the sewing machine down. So I was sewing, but I was also cutting the patterns and packaging, and Morgan was primarily doing most of the sewing, and I was doing all the other stuff, the marketing. So April 15th, ironically, tax day, we posted our masks. So we were selling we were selling masks. We put it on Facebook Marketplace, and we sewed the mask for Angela, and then we thought, well, nobody's selling masks. The CDC saying everybody needs masks. I saw an opportunity, and we jumped on it. So we selling on Facebook Marketplace, but the problem was Walmart was running out of fabric. Hobby Lobby was closed down, so it was really tough to get fabric. And then on April 15th, Morgan listed it on her Etsy shop, and in 4 hours, I think we got about 600 orders, averaging 2 masks a piece with 3-day shipping. So I think we had to sew about 1,300 masks, and that's not only sewing them, I had to get the fabric, cut the, figure it out. So previously we ran into the fabric issue, and I had went and got a license to buy fabric wholesale. So I was getting fabric in at the time, and when we were making the masks, and so we had to ramp up our production. So we got a daughter, my now daughter-in-law, had a sewing machine, and she came over, and Morgan recruited 2 of her friends for some side income to sew. So we were, I think we wound up having to be late on all these orders, and we kept pushing them back. Sometime when we were watching the orders come in, and I would go in and periodically change the ship date, so it got longer. Now I'm remembering it. It got longer as the night went on, but in about 4 hours we got 600 orders. It was crazy. So we were getting the fabric, and I got pictures of Walmart walls bearing no fabric at all, and the pictures in my living room, I got fabric everywhere. We're taking up 2 rooms with orders, and we're packing and shipping, and I had all this fabric, and I'm cutting and trying to get all these things, and take the raw materials over, and you couldn't get elastic, so we were using hair bands. So I would have like Angela drive around to Dollar General's and buy all the hair bands that they had, those little elastic hair bands. It was crazy. There were 2 weeks, I think, when Morgan and I worked about 18 hours a day trying to get everything caught up. And thankfully there were no masks commercially available, and people had these orders and they were willing to wait. Plus we had about 50 different patterns of, at the time, 50 different patterns of fabric that you could pick from. So not only were there no masks in the stores, but these were vanity masks. They were more than just the crappy surgical masks. But there were no N95s because you couldn't get them anywhere. So this went on and for a couple of months, and I transitioned to, at some point in there, I realized that more people were making masks and the sales kind of died down for masks, but I noticed fabric was still in short supply. So in June, I shifted my focus from mask making to just selling fabric on Etsy. And I went from 50 patterns to about 400 patterns, and I quickly realized that the labor involved in mask making is vastly greater than the labor involved in selling fabric. It's one cut versus cutting and sewing and packaging. I mean, there's still the packaging, but even the packaging is a lot easier. So because I reduced a lot of the labor, the shop opened up. Morgan's friends went back to work. Jess, daughter-in-law, she went back to work. So I went back to work. So it was even more difficult to make masks when I was working. So I transitioned to the fabric, selling the fabric, and the profit margin was much greater, as you can imagine, and the labor was much less. So I was making really good money throughout the summer. and I would buy more fabric, and I would, make more sales and keep going. So I was making enough money that I felt comfortable leaving the previous company. But in hindsight, I not only left the company, but I left all that human connectivity. And so I was the kids were off and on working from or school from home, and so sometimes they were there, but from the most part, I was here by myself, and I had nobody to talk to and nobody to vet these philosophies, vet my thoughts, and so I turned to the internet, and I started going down. It was about the time of the election, so it was 2020, yeah. And it was about the time of the election, and Thanksgiving, that right after the election and Thanksgiving, we were riding down to Mobile to see Angela's father, and on the way down, I wrote this narrative short story article. I don't know what I would call it, about how the election was stolen, and how it's us against them, and blah blah blah, and everybody's complicit in this, and all the media outlets, and nobody's saying anything. I was at that time I was getting really into the conspiracy theories, and then it just it mushroom, like nuclear mushroom cloud, blew up. So I went down a lot of rabbit holes for probably 6 months, 8 months, something like that. So while I'm doing this, come Thanksgiving, it was the week before Thanksgiving, I went to Mobile. So come Thanksgiving, I had put up a listing on Etsy. I found some Washington Redskins pattern before they changed their name to the Washington football team or some nonsense. So it was Redskins. So I got a bolt of the Redskins fabric, which is like 10 yards. And, I was selling fabric at a fair price compared to, what other people were doing. And it was going well. But I listed the Washington Redskins fabric, I think the day before Thanksgiving, 2020. And all of a sudden, my Etsy shop is shut down. I can't get to it. And it's over Thanksgiving. And I'm trying to call Etsy customer service and trying to email them, and nobody's responding. And, it took 3 days to get a response. And it turns out Etsy deemed Washington Redskins as offensive and shut my shop down. And it took me 3 days to contact somebody to say, basically, hey, how about I'm sorry and I'll take it down, and how about a warning, rather than wreck my sales over, people buying stuff. I have no idea what could have been, but at the rate it was going, they were buying fabric for a Christmas, anybody making crafts. And I was selling, I had 400 patterns, and the biggest sellers were the sports teams and the licensed stuff, primarily NFL, NCAA, and I had so many schools and so many patterns from schools, mostly SEC because they rock, and Auburn, Alabama. So but that's what you could find. I mean, so I had a pretty good. I was buying at wholesale. I had a pretty good market going on, and then Etsy shut me down. And then when I finally got the store reopened, the sales, I can't prove anything, of course, but I believe they changed the algorithm on me. My traffic died down. I was still doing the same amount of Etsy ads, but traffic sales went way down, and which freaked me out and pushed me even more to these conspiracy theories that they're famous for. They coined the term hopium. So you get a lot of hopium spread and from all these gurus, and there's a lot of theories that purport a utopia-like society coming sooner than later. And we'll get into all these. I mean, these are fascinating to me to rebuke some of them or look a little deeper into them. Some of them have some threads of merit and validity, and it's going to be interesting to go through them. But so I was deep in this conspiracy theory, almost like reverse therapy, and I was digging and I was just spreading, all this. Not vitriol. I wasn't angry, but I was just. I was deep into it, and then I had nobody to bounce ideas off of, and Angela was multiple times. Angela called me crazy conspiracy theorist, and it was a bad point in our lives. Family wise, and we probably, had it kept going that way, we probably would have gotten divorced. But so then I don't know what hit. All of a sudden, something hit. Switch flipped, and maybe it was like sales were down. We didn't have any money, and Angela just had to switch jobs and. Just all this stuff. So I had to go get a job. So I went out and got a job. And then gradually started coming back to reality. And, that led me to where I am today. So, again, all going deep down the conspiracy theories. But, when I go into something, I go all in, and I wouldn't change any of that because I really feel like this is going to do some good for humanity. I really have that feeling. So I think it's probably a good time to wrap it up. I don't know if I said it already, episode 2 of the Pondering Infinity podcast. I don't know. I'm going to try to do another one tomorrow, but maybe I will. I don't know. I got to get some sort of regularity and consistency in this whole thing, but I need to. A lot of stuff to do. Again, share it. If you enjoy it, I hope you do, but I'm really doing this for selfish reasons, to document this for me. So until you hear me again, until maybe you can leave me a message on Anchor or shoot me an email, or I'd love to hear from you if you are. Is anybody out there? Pink Floyd. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.